probably should have done before is look at, the Wikipedia page or the IMDb, or we're just flying into this movie.
We're just doing it.
You know what? So much so that we're not even going to have a little preamble.
Nope.
It's movie time. Let's go.
It's podcast time.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to a business-like episode of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy, Business Time Randhawa. And with me is, straight to the point, Samantha Randhawa.
That's me.
Yeah, no chit-chat.
No.
Who has time for that?
Straight to the business.
Because we have a lot of work to do today.
We do.
But you guys don't need to know about it, because you know why? We're getting straight to the business.
Straight to the business.
So we are talking all about the movie Ju Dou from 1990, directed by Zhang Yimou. And this is a different type of episode for us, because usually we always take turns picking something the other person hasn't seen, but that you yourself love. And this was one that neither of us had seen. But I loved and had seen Hero and Raise the Red Lantern. And I think, both enjoyed Raise the Red Lantern so much. We're like, you know what? Let's just do the
trilogy?
Well, there is a trilogy.
Oh.
Kind of. There is an unofficial trilogy that started with Red Sorghum that we did not watch. And I was going to say, maybe we should just watch that. But no, I think we're done.
Okay, this is it.
Red Sorghum, then this, Ju Dou in 1990. And 91 was Raise the Red Lantern. Mm-hmm. It's the unofficial Zhang Yimou and Gong Li Red trilogy. Mm. They went on to make, I think, 8 or 9 movies together in all. And these were the first 3. I think, although I'm not a Zhang Yimou expert, but we are going to pretend to be today.
Perfect. Such experts.
So before we get deep into anything, which is what we're going to do, this is an analysis, more heavy show, not a recap show, which I don't get why those exist myself.
Just watch the movie.
But they're out there. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to spoil everything. So before we get into all of that stuff, do you have some first thoughts on Ju Dou?
This was kind of a brutal movie.
It was.
It was very sad.
Yes.
And I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Raise the Red Lantern.
Agreed.
This is kind of a harder watch. And I appreciate it. It's a very good looking film. I think it's like a good direction. I think it's well done. It just wasn't my favorite movie we've done on this podcast.
It's kind of one of those ones where I'm glad I watched it. Mm-hmm. This is an important movie that you can take a lot away from. I don't need to see it again, maybe.
No. Yeah, I think you summed it up well. Because, it's important. I can see some really good cinematography and the use of Technicolor and everything that kind of goes into this movie. But I don't know that this will be on my rewatch list ever. Especially
when Raise the Red Lantern is there, which talks about a lot of similar themes, but in a different world. Not different world, same time, same country, but the rich side of things. And I think that one does a better job.
I think so.
At doing a lot of the same things. I think this is technically co-directed, and I actually don't even know the co-director's name, but Zhang Yimou, from all I hear, pretty much directed this one.
Okay. The co-director was Fengliang.
All right. And who went on to do some things, but not to the same quality, I'd argue, as Zhang Yimou did.
Mm-hmm. His Wikipedia page is one line. It's a Chinese film director, best known for co-directing the Oscar-nominated film Ju Dou.
There you go.
The end. That's all you need to know about him.
So I guess didn't do as much as Yimou went on to.
No.
So maybe this time, since I feel like we'll have less to say about the movie itself, we can talk a little bit more context. Mm-hmm. Context is fun, right, kids?
Everyone wants to listen to a context podcast.
So I think these two, maybe Red Sorghum as well, but I haven't seen that myself, so I can't speak too much to it. They're often interpreted as indirect critiques of communist power structures, where the female characters, in each one played by Gong Li, stand in for the Chinese people, and these oppressive male forces, in this one, the uncle husband. What's his name? Jinshan? Something like that.
Yes.
But there's only really 4 characters in this movie are standing in for that oppressive government. They were criticized within China for portraying it as negative and patriarchal and repressive and ritualistic. And then these ones also got a little bit of criticism within China for being kind of exploitative in an Orientalist way, meaning that not many movies from China, especially of this time, were getting out there. And when they are doing these period pieces that kind of show the worst of the history, or at least bad parts of it, people criticize Yimou of kind of playing up that exoticism of like, this is backwards China sort of thing. But
Right.
I feel like that is on us as much as it is on him, because if he's showing a part of history, not every movie can speak for an entire, especially China's not a small place.
Country.
That is many, many cultures over thousands of years. And how can anyone possibly try to encapsulate that in every film? And that's not a worthy goal. Like, you shouldn't try to do that. You cannot do that. But because we get so few things, and China does, even in newspapers now, like how often something that comes from an onion type thing, a satirical Chinese source, we'll report it as real because we'll just like, oh, those backwards Chinese. We kind of have a habit of doing that in the West. And when we see something, I haven't seen other movies about 1920s China, so this was what it must be like everywhere.
This is like the movie about 1920s China.
Yeah, so that is too heavy of a burden to put on any movie. I get the criticism within China that you want to portray more, just like not a lot of Canadian TV shows make it in the US, and if the only ones we had were about all hockey players, we'd be like, yeah, there's a little more to us too,
There are
but
a few more things going on.
it's not as reductive, and like, it's Canada where we're doing fine. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yes, us Canadians are so maligned in the world,
No.
and people have backwards ideas. Like, yeah, we're doing all right.
We're fine.
Yeah.
This movie was banned in China until 1992.
I think just about every one of his movies was.
Has it? Oh, okay.
So Raise the Red Lantern was as well, but it's unclear the reasoning, because everything that either shows Chinese history, is critical of it, or is positive of it, the Communist Party banned at some point.
Okay.
This one was banned right near the beginning, and it was nominated for Best Foreign Language Oscar. I think China's first nomination in that, and they actually tried to pull it back unsuccessfully. Take from that what you will, because I think you can also look at some of these and say like, oh, this is from taking place in the early 1900s, so it's anti-feudal and it's actually pro-communist, and the uncle is more a symbol of the old imperial system, and Ju Dou is a symbol of the new communist uprising. Like, you could go either way. I think that's less in there, but I think, just as I was saying, of this movie can't talk for all of China and we shouldn't take it as that, what I think this can do is, rather than looking at this as either pro or anti-communist, because I've spent a collective 30 days in China. I don't know. We are not experts on this, but what we can see is how this battle between desire and duty that I think is at the heart of the movie is a very human battle and is universal and doesn't have to be in those confines. And if you want to look at it within those confines, it definitely works. But I think fundamentally what this movie is about is duty and tradition versus not necessarily progress, but desire that comes against that. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you put that really well. There is a lot of important stuff in this movie. I agree. And I could see how a communist government might not like that.
They don't like much.
They don't like much, and that is what I was going to say.
Which is weird, because Zhang Yimou now, I'm someone who is not reading too much into this, and I didn't into Raise the Red Lantern, but Yimou has gone very pro-China in his later career, which is interesting from where he came from being banned and all of that.
Yeah. Well, and now he's directing opening and closing ceremonies for the Olympics.
Well, that's been quite a while ago now.
Well, 2022 was the last one that he did.
Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot they had it again.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I completely forgot
there
about
was
that.
Beijing portions of the closing ceremonies for the Athens in 2022 and 2018 in Pyeongchang, South Korea. And then he did the opening and closing ceremonies of both Beijing Olympics.
I remember the first one, and that was a big deal because I was like, oh, did you see the guy from Hero is doing the Olympics? It's going to be
Yes,
great.
that's right. I remember you saying that. But yeah, interesting. Interesting change from someone who's doing such like not subversive but like
Well, that I think makes sense because he has that visual flair.
Oh no, I get the Olympics. I just think that seems very mainstream for someone who's making movies like this earlier in his career.
Because you're not getting that job unless you have the approval of the
government. Yeah,
Chinese Communist
like it's
Party.
interesting that he's now doing something on such a big world stage. It's great, and I can see how he'd be really good at it. But I think it's very funny that like most of his movies were banned.
What seemed like a bigger stretch to me is the last movie I saw of his was The Great Wall, starring Matt Damon, and it is just a piece of garbage.
None of those words made sense to me.
He's like fighting dragon monsters on the Great Wall of China. It's
Why is it a white guy fighting on the Great Wall?
well,
There's so many questions.
we'll save that for our Great Wall podcast.
Great. Okay.
Which we will never do. It's not worth
No,
watching.
I just am very confused by this
You know
whole
what?
plot.
If you want to hear about it, watch it and listen to the How Did This Get Made episode
Oh,
about
perfect.
it. They look at it of like just a bad movie, but it's also interesting in where it fits in his career because
Yeah.
of where. But back to this.
Okay, great.
So this is set in what they call the Republican era of China, the 1912 to 1949. I think this is around the 20s. It doesn't really say. So this is after the fall of the Qing dynasty, but before the establishment of the People's Republic of China. So it's a really fragmented time. There are warlords who kind of occupy districts more than anything. There is no central authority. And it's also a time of change where a lot of what we'd consider modern ideas and education are just starting to filter their way in. And it's a time that emphasized hierarchy and ritual and social stability, but all of that is about to be or is becoming challenged. And I was going to say it's a time of like men were in charge and women were, but that's kind of everywhere in the 20s and kind of now too.
Kind of always.
Yeah. That is not unique to China in the early 1900s.
No, but you do get a very good idea of what the hierarchy is really early on in the movie.
Definitely. I have a whole thing about the fifth generation of Chinese filmmakers, but I guess we don't really need to get in that. That's where Zhang Yimou came out of. It was the first generation that was going to these film schools. They broke from socialist realism. They did a lot of historical stuff, and they're known, Yimou most importantly, for their striking use of color, composition, and that kind of visual poetry that we see him employ in this. I think not as well as he does later in his career, like a year later with Raise the Red Lantern.
Yeah.
I think that one looks even better.
Visually, yeah, for sure. And this, like, I get that it's kind of a rough place, right? Like it's not like a big palace where they have all the sorts of stuff to like make it beautiful and like do all of that. This is a cloth dyeing shop that is like not making a lot of money. And so we don't have the like set dressing that we would have in the other movie.
Definitely. I think since this one is kind of about these 3.5 characters, maybe we should just start talking about them, and that'll kind of lead us into the themes of the movie.
Yeah.
Because I think we can both agree that it's mostly about the traditions kind of squashing this possible love that's going on. Mm-hmm. So first we have Ju Dou herself, played by Gong Li, our second time watching her in the last week. How did you like her performance and character?
I think I prefer her in the Red Lantern movie. I don't know, but I just felt like she did a lot Not that she's not doing a lot in this movie, but I just felt like I liked her performance better in the other movie.
With Raise the Red Lantern, I made a point of, when I pitched it, saying it's a very intense and dramatic movie, but it doesn't get into melodrama. I think Ju Dou does get into melodrama.
It does. Oh, it very much does. Yeah. So I thought that she was like very good in this role. I liked Ju Dou, and you want like the best for her, even though that's clearly not what she's getting. And you also are kind of cheering for her to either make it out or make this man happy.
Or take revenge.
That's
what I was cheering for most.
I was also cheering for that. I did think that she should just kill him. The uncle, not the boyfriend nephew.
Sure.
I thought that she was like a very strong character, and I would have liked to see her do a little bit more maybe, but it is the time and the place that probably wouldn't allow her to do anything.
Yeah, the time and place doesn't allow her to do much. She seems like the most oppressed by this system, I'd say,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And she has so little agency. I did like her performance, but like you, I don't think it was as good as Raise the Red Lantern, because that one was just more nuanced.
Yeah.
And this, she just has a few notes, and that's not a criticism of the performance, but just that's kind of the nature of the script and of the character. She's in such dire circumstances all the time that everything is kind of big. It's a melodrama,
It's
right?
true. Yeah. The constant direness, I think, wore on me a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a 95, something like that-ish minute movie. I think it feels longer than the 2 hours of Raise the Red Lantern.
I agree.
Raise the Red Lantern, I don't know, that movie flew by for a movie of
so
people
fast.
just sitting around in rooms. I don't know, it flies.
Yeah, I agree.
So like me, were you kind of hoping she would become as brutal as her oppressors?
Yeah, I did hope that, she would kind of strike back and gain her kind of autonomy back. But I also felt like I didn't always understand what her motivations were. Like at the beginning, like at the first half of the movie, she realizes that the hole is...
This is what I was just going to ask you about. Perfect, go on.
Like the hole into the, like where you can look into the bathing area. She sees the hole, and first she's like really shocked and like kind of alarmed that someone might be like spying on her while she bathes, and like fair. But I felt like she turned really quickly to not caring and uncovering the hole. And I didn't quite understand what was going on until it was happening.
My question right here is, why do you think she did that? I have it written down. So if you don't have an idea, I think I might.
I feel like I understand why she did it after seeing it and like thinking about it for a little bit. I think she was trying to loop someone in on like just how bad her life was. By
showing those bruises?
Yeah.
I think it's that, but also that she wants Tianxing to fall in love with her. And I don't want this to sound too much of, you know how discourse about just anything related to women is like, oh, they're all manipulative, they'll use their sexuality. But this is a character who has essentially no agency.
Right.
Her sexuality is all that she has, really. She has that, and the ability to be a mother are really the only sources of power that she has in this world. So I'm not upset with her to use her sexuality to win Tianxing over. And I feel like she not necessarily seduces, because all she does is like, hey, I exist, here I am.
Yeah.
And that gets him. And she does rather aggressively approach him at the first time. Mm-hmm. So I think she's using her sexuality because she needs protection, and that's her only option. Mm-hmm. And I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that that's a bad thing. It is weird how we have this in the world that using sexuality to get something is evil, but using like physical might to get something, like that's good. But in a world where she has only one tool to use, yeah, go for it. Use it. It's like the same people who watch porn will never say, like, I'll never date an OnlyFans girl. And it's like, well, yeah, do you see the hypocrisy here? But so I think that's what she's doing. I do think she does fall in love with Tianxing, and he was just gawking at her, and he's like a real perv at the beginning, right?
Yeah, he is.
Because I think it's just his world. He doesn't see women. He has so little other people in his life. And he's also not, of course, to the extent of her, but he's also trapped with this abusive dude. And he is enamored by something different. And she is a breath of fresh air to his life, to the movie, really.
Yeah.
So I think they start things off for their own somewhat selfish, but if you consider self-preservation selfish, their own selfish reasons. But I do think they fall in love because they have that bond, because they both want to escape their current situations. What do you think? Does that make sense?
I think so. I also think that she was like looping him in on the abuse.
Definitely.
Like, and I mean, how could you not know? Because you're all in the same house. But
and we see that he does know, because he goes to the room and he gets that axe the one time, and he knows what's happened to the previous wife. So like, this guy's killed 2 women already.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I feel like both things are kind of true there. Yeah.
And then moving on to the male characters, I think it is really interesting that they are all kind of disabled in a way. Jinshan becomes paralyzed from the waist down, and we also know that he cannot father a child, or we suspect at least, because he's had
that he's sterile
or maybe impotent. We don't know exactly.
One of the two. Yeah.
The son, Tianbai, cannot speak.
Right. He's sort of creep.
And he is a creep. We'll get to him.
Creepy child, yeah.
And Tianxing, the nephew boyfriend,
yep,
is dependent on others for his existence, really. And he also has this indecision that kind of plagues him through the movie. We were talking last week about how Gong Li's character has some Hamlet in her in Raise the Red Lantern, whether she was mad or mad in craft.
Right.
I think Tianxing has some Hamlet in him, because he wants to kill his uncle, but he's plagued by, like, oh, I don't know, should I do it? Should I not?
Yeah.
That goes on for 2 hours of Hamlet, just like it does for 90 minutes of this.
Yeah, I agree. At the beginning of the movie, I felt really sad for him, because his life seems really shitty.
It really does.
It's a shitty little life.
I feel sad for him through the whole movie.
Oh, for sure. No, but I mean, like, immediately I was hit with, like, oh, this guy has a shitty life.
Yes.
And a shitty uncle. And he's been abused in a different way of, like, his uncle doesn't ever have a kind word for him. He's, like, probably physically abusive, but, like, you hear him being verbally abusive throughout the opening of the movie, basically.
And you know that's all he's ever experienced his whole life.
Exactly. And you also get the story that his parents died and he was like adopted by this uncle and is now like basically indebted to him. And I'm like, run away, take the horse and run away. But like, I just couldn't get past the fact that he like was so stuck in this life.
I got distracted, but I was saying that they each have some sort of disability, showing that this patriarchal, feudalistic structure that they adhere to so rigidly also affects them. Not to the extent that we see with Ju Dou, but they are all crippled in this society as well, showing that, yeah, even if you are the man in a patriarchy, something is being withheld from you.
Right, yeah.
You can't be your full self. You'll get more than a lot of other people, but you still are in this kind of prison, in this rigid structure. And he's a good example of that, because he has many opportunities to do what he can to disrupt this system. He could have thrown his uncle off that cliff at the beginning, And at the time, I was like, no, don't throw him off the cliff. But now I'm like, yeah, he should have just thrown him off that cliff. Everything would have been so much better.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, whether it's his allegiance to his family or simply this world and structure, because he's always about, it's my uncle, this is my family, I can't do that. He is so blindly loyal to that to his own detriment.
Yeah. Yeah. And the running theme of like, why don't you just leave? I can't leave. This is my home. And like, would it be any better out there? Is like very oppressive throughout the movie of like, let's just run away. We can't run away. And like, they would know, or word would get out, or it's just very much of like staying at home because you know what can happen there.
I guess, yeah.
It's predictable, right?
The whole devil you know sort of thing.
Yeah, it's shitty, but like I know what happens here. I don't know what goes on out there or how the world's gonna like treat me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I felt there was also just the blind loyalty and adherence to these traditions in him as well, more than fear of whatever else is out there.
right.
How about that terrible uncle, Jinshan?
Oh, wow. What an awful human being.
What an awful human being.
I, from like the first time you see him torturing Ju Dou, just wanted him to like fall down those really steep wood stairs.
Yeah.
It's like, there's so many things in this house that it would be so easy to be like, oh, he fell off the scaffolding.
Right.
It's like, yeah, he got hit by a big piece of wet cloth and fell off the scaffolding and like broke his neck, or like fell into the dye pool, or fell down those
Which
stairs.
he does.
Exactly.
They could have just done that earlier.
Right?
Saved everyone some
There were
time.
so many moments where I'm like, your lives would be so much better if he just had an accident somewhere, like in the house, out on the road where he gets found and almost thrown over the cliff. Like, there's so many moments where they seem like too scared to act. And I did feel a little bit like, no, like do something. Felt like you were like banging your head against the wall.
Him more than anyone, I feel, is a kind of like stand-in, an archetype. He represents, just like in Raise the Red Lantern, we had that faceless man who represents like the man. He's like that, whether you want to say because he's older that he represents this past system, whether it's a feudalist system, or if we are looking at it as an anti-communist view, he is that oppressor. I think it's interesting that even when he is no longer fully functional, his system persists. Like, that authority persists despite his, in this case, it's like a literal crippling. It shows how power can outlive its legitimacy.
Yeah, in the way that they keep everything is basically the same.
Yeah,
Even
they go
though
right back to
they go
where
right back
they were.
to work. They go back right to like how they operated on a day-to-day basis when he was kind of like bringing the hammer down and he was authoritarian. It's really interesting to see them just like slot back into those roles.
And you could argue that he becomes even more powerful in death,
Yeah.
like an idea does. If he's representative of those old ways or tradition or communism or however you want to look at it, in the end, he is just that casket. And what does the casket do? It runs over them 49 more times.
Yeah.
If they hadn't had a lifetime full of that already, even in death, he's doing that.
Yeah.
And he gets these benefits that he doesn't actually deserve or earn. And it's clear in the ways, of course, that they're doing all the work for him. But he has a son who acknowledges him as father, even though he can't. It shows you how these power structures are multi-generational and people just fall into them. You don't necessarily have to earn the respect or the power that comes with enforced structures or traditionalism like this.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about that little creepy son?
Oh my God. What a creep.
He's the one that I had the hardest time with at first. What do you think?
He was a really cute baby.
Sure.
That's a nice thing I'll say.
Then
about
he
him.
turned into a real creep.
Oh my God. Like, I understand that, like, you become a product of your environment, right? Like, good or bad. I think that this kid got all the bad and none of the good. They're like, he was born of two people who love each other, and like maybe the family structure was like a little weird.
It's a little weird.
The little like nephew uncle. But like all he seemed to get was his uncle father.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Jinshan.
All he seemed to get was the cruelty from that.
Yeah. Maybe that's supposed to be representative of a generational trauma, that this cycle of abuse and shame is passed down, or the film is making a commentary on how past traumas or traditions are going to persist. If you stay within this traditional structure, those traditions are going to persist, even though they aren't, Jinshan isn't even the actual father. The structure he represents still exists and will continue to exist after his death. And I think there's nowhere that that's more clearly symbolized than with the son, who has this shame and this rage and is a big part of where their fate goes. And we eventually see him sitting on atop that casket, suggesting that he is going to be the next generation of what Jinshan represented.
Yeah.
You think at first he represents hope because he's a product of these kind of revolutionaries in their little microcosm there. They are changing things, and he's should be the next part of that and represent a new hope. But rather, they are still a prisoner to this structure, and it's most clear in him becoming like the uncle father and not the two of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a really hard time figuring out how old anybody was in this movie.
Right. It goes through quite a few years,
It
too.
does. And I realized that it was like 7 years later.
Yeah, or maybe more. He looks big at the end when he's running around and chasing that kid and stuff.
Yeah, I think he's a teenager then.
I'd say so, an early teen. It looks
Yeah. So like a very hard time. I mean, when you're a baby and you can kind of guess how old you are. But like when he stops being a baby and starts being like more of a boy, I had a very hard time trying to figure out, is he 6? Is he 14?
I feel like there was that section where he's anywhere between 3 and 6 when Uncle Father drowns, and
Right.
he's like laughing. I feel he's that age then, and then it jumps to him being, maybe 14.
14, 15, yeah.
When he looks like he could beat up his actual dad.
Yeah, he does get a little thicker.
Yes.
Like he becomes a little like more grown up, I guess. That's all I'm trying to say. But I also had a very hard time with the nephew boyfriend, because I don't know, I also felt like, and maybe it's like lack of hair, or like
He was tough because
he
you're like,
could have been 20 or he could have been 50.
I thought he must be like late 30s, but he has a very childlike way about him.
His mannerisms and his like facial expressions were very young.
Because he's also essentially a slave to his uncle, and he's beaten down and doesn't have any of the things that other adults have.
Yes.
They talk about it. Oh, one of the saddest scenes. I don't know. There are actually so many sad scenes, but one that really got me was that birthday party. It was his 3rd birthday, the
Right.
little kid.
Yeah.
And everyone is laughing at Tianxing and saying like, oh, maybe you'll have a wife one day. Probably not. And they're all just laughing at him, and he's just crying while people think he can't have a wife, he can't have a child, and both are right there for him, but he can't.
But they're not for him.
Yeah. So in this way, I think that same ephemeral system we're talking about is kind of causing like an arrested development in him, and he can't be what he considers a man because he is just here to serve his uncle.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into some of the formal stuff a little bit?
Sure.
Or maybe let's talk about the setting, and that's kind of a good transition.
Sure.
So this one was way more outdoor and in wide open spaces than Raise the Red Lantern, but I still feel like we are stuck in this place.
Yes.
I think, was it surrounded by mountains, or did it just feel like that to me?
I think it's like a town in the mountains.
So Either way, if they're literal or not, I felt them, and you still feel very trapped in this world. It has a lot in common with Red Lantern in that way. The design makes it seem like there's constant surveillance. We have people looking through little holes. You have to be quiet because who knows who can hear you, because it's this shared space that although it's isolated itself, there's no privacy within it.
Yeah. It does feel a little bit like a prison in there.
Yeah, and
because
I think
the walls are so high because I mean you need space for this cloth, but you also you nobody really comes and goes. You're locking that big door. You don't really know what's going on in the outside world for most of the movie. Yeah, it felt very prison-like.
Have you ever seen dyeing done like this before?
No.
This is one of my favorite things. I have a very special interest in it. I got to see one in Japan. They do still use it, but it was kind of like it's a cool thing. Like, look, we're doing it in the old ways.
Oh yeah.
And there's pictures of sometimes they would be on the coast because they would use the water of the beach. So you have these 40-foot things of red sails essentially on a beach, or like how they look in this. I think they are a beautiful backdrop.
It is, no, and I think that's a really good way to set the scene. And with something that is supposed to be so bare bones, you have these beautiful bright pops of color. I think that kind of made it feel a little less desolate, but still very desolate.
Yeah.
Because they're not their fabric.
No.
It's someone else's fabric.
And you get a lot of shots through doors and gates and lots of shots of the door being locked. And I think that kind of speaks to the control that the system or the uncle has over them. And I think it kind of relates to Ju Dou's body herself. Like she, again, I just keep saying she has so little agency, but these shots of everything getting locked up, they are getting locked up in there as well. By locking the door, you're saying that, doors exist. Mm-hmm. There is a way out, but they're not open.
Wow.
With the colors, I only started looking at it late in the movie, so this might be like a half-baked idea, but it seems like clearly the colors are important, right? Yes. We show them, they are the only splashes of color. Everything else is a very washed out brownish beige. And for both of these two movies, someone out there, do a good transfer of them. They're beautiful movies, and the DVDs you get of them are junk. So someone, please make a good quality Blu-ray, especially of Raise the Red Lantern, so I can buy it. Yes. But these cloths, this might be Indy's thinking of something and making it up as he goes, and maybe it'll work out, maybe not. Maybe there's something to the once something is dyed this color, it can't be undone, and how their actions are leaving permanent marks or stains on things, but I don't know. And are the colors different? Because it seems like when they are dyeing things red, those are in the more passionate scenes. And I think that maybe that's just an easy one that I thought of because, red, passion. Because in that first sexual encounter between the two of them, there's that one really great shot where it's all unfurling and it kind of like goes across her head, and we actually get to see her having some sort of pleasure in this movie for the first time. That was really cool. But at the same time, sometimes it is in the backdrop for the most violent and cruel scenes. So I think just passion in general, while the yellow has something to do with the authority or the patriarchy or perhaps the decay of that system. I think yellow for many years symbolized imperial authority within China, while red is more of like a good luck color, because the yellow is most often used by the bad uncle or when he's still mobile. And then eventually we get into blues and greens, but I think there weren't enough, and I wasn't paying attention enough to see what those really had links to. Maybe it was more in the restraint or the fear or entrapment, because when somebody is being watched or manipulated, there was more blue and green in those. But I think I need to rewatch it with that in mind because I kind of thought of this after the fact, so I don't know if it really holds up at all.
Yeah, I can't say that I like noticed the color scheme aligning with what was kind of happening in the movie, but it definitely was like a reminder that there are people who, or there's like a better life out there. Other people are living better than us because they can afford to buy all this cloth and like do all of that and request special dye jobs and everything. And it really kind of juxtaposed the shittiness, and I'm just gonna keep saying it, of the life at this dying place.
It really was.
Yeah.
There you, maybe that's what it was all about. It was all an English pun. That's
It was
what I
an
meant.
English pun in this Chinese movie.
But then when you watch the next movie, because you're like, yeah, there's people out there living better who can afford this stuff.
Not
And then we
quite.
go and see them in the next movie and you're like, oh, this exists everywhere.
But it's also like a we want what we can't have kind of thing.
And if you were going to be in an oppressive patriarchal system, you might as well be more comfortable while you do it.
Have some money to
Have a roof.
throw around. Yeah. Yeah, and like fire and servants and yeah, not be worked to the bone like this young man
And woman.
Yeah, so China.
I think it's more of a patriarchy.
Patriarchy.
Well, I have some other stuff about the mule and that, but I don't know. What do you think? Should we wrap up on Ju Dou?
Sure. Overall, I thought this was a good movie. I thought it was well done. I found it very brutal, and sometimes I have a hard time with a movie like that. It is like, it's a very beautiful movie, but it is like a very dark theme, and I think that like it's worth seeing. And like we said at the beginning, I don't know that I'll ever want to watch it again, but I think that the themes are important, and it's a very cool watch alongside Raise the Red Lantern, because you kind of get to see both sides of the coin, and you get to feel that like, oh, well, if we had money and I didn't have to dye cloth for a living, maybe my life would be better. And you're like, nope, untrue. Because you get to see it from the other side as well. And so I think that these two movies together are great, and like definitely watch them both and then listen to our episodes. But I think that this is like a very hard life to watch someone go through. And I don't know, I think I've talked about it before, but I enjoy more escapism when I'm watching movies and stuff. And I think that this was definitely not that, but I'm still going to recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's very good. I think it's a very good movie. But like you were saying, I think most of what is done here is done better in Raise the Red Lantern. Mm-hmm. So if you've already watched this and you haven't seen Raise the Red Lantern, oh, you're going to love it. That one
it's going to be so good.
It's fantastic. I prefer that one, but I understand why this is so highly regarded as well. I think people shouldn't be pitching it as a romance, because that's what I heard. So many of the posters or DVD covers call it like an erotic romance, and that's not what this is.
No.
This is a brutal movie that does show that romance can exist in the most brutal circumstances. Sure, I'll give you that. I'll give you romance because the romance is central to it, but I wouldn't put that at the forefront of what this movie is.
No.
Everything that we've talked about, all of these symbols point towards the idea that individual desire and romance cannot survive inside an inescapable system like this is. Whether you want to liken it to patriarchy or feudalism or 1990s Chinese communism, that all works, but these individual desires cannot survive under those circumstances. And I think what Zhang Yimou does so brilliantly in both of these movies we've been talking about is make all of these ideas feel inevitable by the way he uses the symbolism. With that visual language, and in the other movie more into the audio as well, and in this one, but I think he just sharpens all of these techniques a little more in Red Lantern. But by using all of these things with the setting and the cinematography and the script, using everything in tandem like that, he makes all of his symbols feel inevitable rather than contrived. I don't feel like this is a movie made by a guy and he made these buildings look this certain way, so I will think this.
Right.
It makes me think that this is the world, and that's why I feel like that. He is clearly someone who is manipulating the screen more than most. He's very intentional in what he chooses, but so much so that it feels entirely naturalistic almost. And if you look at shots in both of these, they're beautiful, and that's not natural. Things don't just look like that. He puts a lot of work into it, but so much work that is also in service of the script and the performances that it just feels very natural, and these systems that he is picking apart feel so inevitable. And in this movie, it leaves you with a sense of hopelessness. Mm-hmm. So that is hard to sell someone on, of like, hey, do you want to see a movie that will make you feel hopeless, but without it being over the top? Here's the movie for you.
Great.
But that is what he does. So he succeeds completely in what he wants to do. What he wants to do does not always make for the most enjoyable watch, but it makes for great art.
Yeah, I agree.
So go watch Ju Dou, go watch Raise the Red Lantern, and listen to our previous episode that came out last week. And go watch Hero, which is a much easier watch than probably both. And really, I think that is the peak of his visual flair. Mm-hmm. Because it's more than Red Lantern. Red Lantern has a lot more restraint to it than Hero does. Hero, he's going full wuxia and fantasy elements, so he can go big with all of his visual stuff. And it is maybe the single most beautiful movie I've ever seen.
It is a beautiful movie.
We talked about it a year ago, and we're going to rebroadcast that next week. And it is a subtitled Chinese martial arts movie that Samantha really liked, so you know it's going to be good.
Yes. Go see Hero. I can't say enough good things about it.
You know what? I think you can, and you can hear them all next week.
Next week. Yay.
Well, until then, bye, everybody.
Bye.